Greetings and salutations, test takers. I'm looking here. Whoop, let me see if we are live or not. I had a little glitch here earlier. And if you are here, please put something in the comments to let me know that we are live. Let me just check here, Brian, just to see.
The joys of living off grid.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Live. Yeah, okay, cool. We are up and running, I think. We'll see if we have anybody joining. Greetings and salutations, test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru coming to you from my off-grid studio, getting our kicks on the historic Route 66 with our always special VIP guest, Brian Lee, managing member, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. We'll get some housekeeping out of the way, and then we'll try and help you as much as we possibly can with any content you may have. It is helpful if you tell Brian and I what exam your question is about, because the way the depth and overlap is different from exam to exam. I had a guy, no reason not to have pep in his step, Brian. He passed his SIE. He said, how much overlap on the 66? And I said, ooh, I can't think of much. That's an independent study effort, right? So if you think about it, it's helpful, but not necessary. If you're looking for a free supplement, the best free supplement is my YouTube channel. It's completely free. There's over 2,000 videos. We have over 8 million views. It's contributed to many, many, many thousands of test-taking victories. If you're looking to binge, I've organized the channel on series playlists. So you go to your series 66, for example. The first playlist is a podcast series that Brian and I did, gives you a nice overview of the exam itself. Then there's an explication of the test specifications. Then there's some lectures, and then there's practice tests and practice questions for you. And that's great if you want to binge. Now, it's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. And, it's okay. Again, people can ask me questions. Which video should I watch first? The one that says, watch this first. Right? But you can do whatever you'd like, right? I mean, you don't have to do it in any certain order, but it's set up that way. Now, if you're looking for a particular topic, please, please, please use the channel search bar. Put accrued interest or margin or whatever it is, and that content will naturally appear in short form, intermediate form, long form videos. And it's okay. When Brian and I know that tonight we're going to answer questions that have been asked and answered many times and live forever in video form. But that's okay. We'll answer them again. But if you're struggling, just use that channel search bar. It is not a time to be frugal. So if you're looking for a paid supplement, you have the resources, I highly recommend a Kaplan Cubic. In the Series 7, for example, you can get 3,600 practice questions, and most importantly, a performance tracker to help you identify areas for remediation. With my Guru 15 discount code, you can get that for $55.80. And then Brian has been kind enough to give our viewers a 20% discount on his, I think, master distillation of the content that you get from your study prep vendor, STC, Past Perfect, Kaplan, and help you know what part of that is important for your actual exam. That's a video course, comes with a PDF, and it comes with I think, the best practice test out there is an intellectual inventory. All in with the discount, a little, I think, over $100 for Brian's distillation of testable content. You are not alone. If you are looking to join a test-taking tribe, feel free to join on one of our communities. We have a Facebook community coming up on 2,000 members. We average 5, 6, 7, 8, sometimes 10 posts there from test takers, victorious, people looking for help. Sometimes, Brian, I don't even have to help because people are already jumping in. Now, of course, sometimes I have to correct the help if it's not correct, right? I go, I know you're trying to be helpful, but that's not actually correct. But check that out. It's called Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. Baby broker is a term of endearment for rookies in the securities industry. And a hat trick is 3 successes in limited time frames. Think here, SIE, Series 766, SIE 663. And boy, we've had many, many hat tricks the last week or so there on that. Our other communities are Reddit communities. We have a Reddit community for the Series 6, our Series 6. We have a Reddit subreddit community for SIE and Series 7, our Series 7. We have a subreddit community for NASA exams, 63, 65, 66, our Series 66. And we have a Reddit community for 9s, 10s, and 24s called R Series 24. At the end of our time tonight, we're doing a coaching call. And our coaching call, you do not win a tutoring session at a date and time of your choice, not what you win. What you win is a coaching call, and you can claim your winnings by going to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. That is my booking page. You go to the class tab, you will see the tab for coaching call winners. That's how you register. There's nothing there yet because I just did one 2 days ago. So I'm current. I don't know anybody any coaching calls, except I think Marcel. I think I owe Marcel like 5 hours of coaching calls because he always wins the drawing and hasn't claimed that. Now, most of the stuff on my booking page is not free. Everything on the YouTube for channel is completely free. I don't sell channel memberships. I don't sell coffee cups and t-shirts and hats, none of that stuff. But on the booking page, nearly nothing is free. Everything is, you got to pay. There are a couple of free things. One free thing is we have a weekly Q&A jam session. If you want to join that, there's one tomorrow. Again, you go to the class tab. And I have a whiteboard like Brian's, except it's electronic, and it allows us to answer more questions in depth. Like, if somebody wants to go over a particular option strategy, that's free. I put those up weekly. There's one tomorrow. We have a book club. Our book we're reading for the next meeting of our Guru Nation book club. Last one we did, Brian, was She Wolves, about ladies in the securities industry. The one before that, we did Michael Dell's memoir. Really kind of neat things. I try and pick books that are relevant to what we do. And boy, Aaron Sorkin wrote a great book called Too Big to Fail. And his latest is 1929 about the crash and how relevant that is to today's markets. So again, you can go to the booking page. You want to join us for that. And we're more than happy to have you join us for that on the booking page. That too is free. And we have a 66. I teach Kaplan classes. I collaborate as Guru Exam Prep. I have a 66 coming up the 17th and 19th. I have a Series 7 next week. You're welcome to join us. You just go to Kaplan Financial. You go to the class schedule. You'll see me listed as the instructor. And again, the Guru 15 discount code works for that as well. Okay, so I think that takes care of our housekeeping. So let's get busy seeing if we can help some test takers, Brian.
Let's do it.
All right, let's see here. Hey, Dean, can you go over what a sole proprietor is, Series 7? A sole proprietor is a business structure. So there's several business structures, right? There's sole proprietorships, LLCs, S Corps, C Corps, partnerships. So if you're setting up a business, you want to know forms of business ownership. And you would probably, if you want to do it right, probably go to an attorney. And he would say, okay, well, listen, sole proprietorships are easy to set up and easy to dissolve, but you and the business are one and the same. That has advantages and disadvantages. The major disadvantage of the sole proprietorship is the liability, right? So if I set up Dean's mowing service as a sole proprietorship and I'm mowing your lawn and a rock comes out of my mower and hits some kid in a rock with a rock, there's probably some attorney on television. Has your kid been hit by a rock? Call, right? Go after Dean, right? So that would be the disadvantage of that. I don't think you'll get tested on Series 7 about business structures as much as you are on 65, 66.
Right.
Sole proprietorships would have available to them retirement plans, used to be called a KEO, but maybe a solo 401k, something like that. But I don't think it's major test content on 7. Your thoughts, Brian, on sole proprietorships on Series 7?
I was surprised after I read this thing that was Series 7. Yeah, it's not on the 7.
Yeah, sometimes test prep vendors, and again, oh God, Brian, I almost put a rant on social media. Just so aggravating. I was helping a young lady with a shared screen on a Past Perfect Series 7. And I just felt so bad that there was so much content there that she's never going to see. Yeah. And my rant was going to be, why don't they call their Q bank? Because some of the questions are, as we always go on our rants about legacy questions, I think they haven't cleaned up that Past Perfect Q bank for decades. They got all kinds of stuff there that used to be on the old Series 7. The old Series 7 was 2-3 hour sessions, 250 questions. I don't know why people just want to get rid of the damn questions. It hurts my heart. Our next one, can you go over straddle spreads and strangles? Well, join us tomorrow for the weekly Q&A session, Eric, where I have a whiteboard. I'd be more than happy to do that. I wouldn't worry about it all strangles as it relates to Series 7. But on straddles, there are 4 test questions about straddles. Can you identify the straddle? That alone was a test question. By the way, even if it wasn't a test question, Eric, I just told you it is. But even if it wasn't, if you can't identify, you don't know what to do next. So a straddle, we're straddling the strike price line. And we're going to do the same option, or excuse me, same action, buy, or sell. We're going to buy a call and buy a put, or sell a call and sell a put. So we have 2 versions of a straddle. We have long straddles and short straddles. Test question number 2 about a straddle is, can you calculate the break-evens? It's the only strategy in which we have 2 break-evens. We have an upside break-even and we have a downside break-even. The way we do that is we take strike price plus total premium, call up. I'll just make up one, a 50 call at 3, a 50 put at 3, 56 is my upside break-even. Can you calculate the downside break-even? Again, strike price minus total premium, put down 44. So my break-even would be 44 and 56. Third test question is, where is the straddle profitable? We have a nice memory aid device for that called silo, short inside, long outside. And then the 4th test question is, when do you use it? You buy a straddle when you expect volatility, but direction is uncertain. You sell a straddle when you think it's going to stay within the trading range. Now, before I go on to spreads, Brian, is there anything you would add to my little discussion on straddles there?
Nope, it's perfect.
Let's now talk about the 8 potential test questions on a spread, Eric. Again, can you identify the spread? Even if it wasn't a test question, I just told you it is. But if you can't identify, you don't know what to do. So a good memory aid device for identifying the spread is SOTA. Same option, different action. Call, put. It's when we're long and short a call or long and short a put. Test question number 1, can you identify a spread? Test question number 2 is, can you determine whether it's a debit or credit spread? Debit means you're paying more money out than bringing money in. You're buying the spread. Or is it a credit spread? More money in than money out. Are you selling the spread? If you get that right, then, Eric, you can rock and roll, because if you get debit exercise widen, do. Like when you're Dean, like I'm wide, I need to exercise, right? So exercise would be profitable and a debit spread. If the difference in the premiums gets larger, widens, that's profitable. Credit expire narrow. Again, you can rock and roll if you get that right. Because credit expire, you want, again, the contracts to expire. So you get to go neener, keep the money. And you want the difference in the premiums to narrow. So 8 questions. Identify debit or credit, exercise or expire, widen or narrow. Max gain, max loss. Number 5. The gain and the loss in a spread always equals the difference in the strikes. All the action takes place between the strikes, right? So if I sell a 40 call and buy a 50 call, there's 10 points to be made or lost, right? It's pretty easy to get the loss in a debit spread. It's what you spent. Whenever you buy an option position, that's your worst case. Pretty easy to gain in a credit spread. It's what you've collected. So we got to do max gain, max loss. Now, if you don't get that, then, Eric, you got to memorize the maximum loss in a debit and a spread is the difference in the premiums less than that debit. I just think that's a mental mess. Or you got to memorize the maximum loss in a credit spread is the difference in the strikes less than that credit. The break-even test-taking trick is somewhere between the strikes. In my example, 40-50, it's somewhere in there. And we have 2 memory aid devices, test question number 7, about how to get the break-even. We got CAL, that stands for call, add to the lower. We're going to add this net premium, doesn't matter if it's a debit or credit, to the lower strike, and we get our break-even. If it's a put spread, push, put, subtract from the higher. We're going to subtract that net premium, doesn't matter debit or credit, and get our break-even. The last thing we got to be able to do on a spread, I told you 8 potential test questions, is determine bullish or bearish. Do we want the market price of the stock to go up or down? The way we do that is the larger premium dominates the position. And so if I'm looking, I buy the 40 call and I sell the 50, the 40 call is going to have a greater premium. It's a bullish debit spread. That comes with practice, drilling, and rehearsing. But we also have a cocktail party trick called bulls, because you're long the lower strike in any spread, because you are long the lower strike, bulls, you're bullish. Amaze friends at the cocktail party. Bull, bear, bull, bull, bear, bull, bull. They're not going to know you're using that trick. They're going to think you're reverse engineering. Oh my God, the lower strike call has that. One other mantra, Eric, I would point out to you. You can join me tomorrow when I have a whiteboard, and I'm more than happy to go over this with you. But one other thing I would point out to you in terms of these spreads is that you need to know when they're missing premiums, lower, higher, longer. Lower, higher, longer. Lower strike call contracts, Eric, always have greater premiums. A choice to buy at a lower price is always more desirable. So that'll always be the dominant leg. Lower, higher, longer. Higher strike puts always have the greater premiums. A choice to sell at a higher price is more desirable. Will have a greater premium. Lower, higher, longer. Longer term option contracts always have greater premiums. So if you're missing the premiums, well, then you have to do it. I'm not going to talk about strangles, because Brian would get mad at me, because he gets mad when I talk about things we know you aren't going to see on your test. But I'm more than happy to do without you tomorrow. I'm teasing, by the way. I should tell you, Brian and I are good friends, and I should probably tell people when I'm teasing, because some people don't know when I'm teasing. Brian, anything you want to add to that?
I know. Yes. Dean, you and I add a lot of value. Well, at least we hope we do anyway, right? And something like this with straddles and spreads, this is why, thank goodness now for technology. Seeing it drawn out and solving individual problems is the best way to learn this.
Practice, drill, and rehearse.
That's
if
right.
You do my
1,000 of them, I've got them on my Series 7 video course.
Yeah, put this in the channel search bar, Eric, and you'll see a lot of examples where I walk people through this and do actual practice questions with you.
You really have to see it.
Yeah, but if you practice, drill, and rehearse it, at some point, as a matter of routine, you'll be able to knock those 8 things out pretty quickly.
Exactly.
At some point, options, I kind of what happens with options, lights go on and they go out again. They go on again, they go out again. So you guys just got to work on getting it lit. But at some point, if you get it, then you're going to want 125 option questions, because there's really no way to fool you on an option once you understand them. By the way, and I would tell you, I'm a little different in that regard. Brian is too. We don't believe, well, I won't speak for Brian. I don't believe in shortcuts where you get the right answer, but you don't understand it, because then you fall prey to different phraseology or different things. And so the way Brian and I do are tried and true. And the 2 big things that Brian and I both believe in solving option questions is you don't fumble around with contract specifications. For another, what I mean by that is, that a short put is an obligation to buy the stock, and you don't fumble around with tracking money. If you can track money, I use a T. Brian, I think, does the same thing, tracking the money. If you can track money in and out, and the contract specifications, you get all the option questions correct. Yeah. Failed last month by 8 points. I have Galen practice exams on Kaplan. I don't know what Galen practice exams are. On 3 of them, I've scored 77 and 180. Do you think I'm ready to take it in a few weeks? Yeah, absolutely. I love those scores. I would just put a caveat, Jay. That's assuming you haven't memorized the Kaplan questions and answers. So I don't know what a Galen practice exam is. Maybe you can put it in the chat and tell us. But assuming you have not memorized the QBank, which is very more difficult to do at Kaplan and other places, I feel good about those scores. When people have high scores and don't pass, which is very, very rarely, it's usually because they've memorized. But I don't think you've memorized it if you're in a 77, 80. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, you know what? I'd like to see a confirmation from another one. Go on Dean's videos. He does all sorts. He does one of mine. He does all sorts of practice finals for the Series 7.
Yeah, Jay and Brian.
Those scores.
Yeah, and Brian has Brian's practice test, Jay, that he's given us permission to do on the site. Hit pause. I think Brian's practice tests have the best correlation to the actual exam.
Pretty good.
Good or bad. I mean, the variance, what I mean by bad is, somebody gets a score that doesn't reflect passing. You've got that. I think you said you got a few weeks. So I'm worried. I would like you to move that up. If you take another practice test on my practice, I have a whole playlist on 66 practice tests, and you get confirmation of the scores, I would consider moving that up, because I think it's going to be hard to keep your study effort in flight for 5 weeks. Right? So get some confirmation, more data, and then decide about maybe moving that up. Eric F. I figured it was 7 because either it's a 7, a 9, or a 4 if you're asking me about spreads, straddles, or strangles. So that we got from the context. Any tips or advice? Well, William, I like that. I love a young man who knows how to tie a tie. Look at that tie. That's a good-looking tie. Any tips? Thursday. This is Tuesday. Well, be confident in the execution of your study plan because it ends tomorrow. Be confident in yourself. And most importantly, be confident in your answers on Thursday. Do not be changing answers, right? Get some rest. Wednesday night, you should just be getting some rest because NASA exams, 66 included, are more reading oriented than other exams. And what I mean by that is, William, when I'm tired, my reading skills are greatly diminished. And, you don't want to be having diminished reading skills. So get a good night's sleep tomorrow. Now, if you think you're going to suffer anxiety, maybe you got to get a good rest tonight because maybe tomorrow you'll be wound up and, not be able to sleep. Any last minute tips for William, Brian?
Yeah, and the one thing about some of those NASA exams, it tends to drive people to overanalyze and overthink these things. Take the questions at face value. How many times, Dean, have we ever heard a student say, I'm missing something. There's something I'm not.
No, it's not there.
No, you're not. You're not missing.
Bring it into the question. Right on, Brian. I had something the other day. I was working with a young lady on the 66, William, and I felt like I was watching a balloon kind of float away.
Exactly. That's great.
I said, where is any of that in this question?
Exactly.
Now, you want to read the question, and then what I like to do is RTFQ, read the full question, RTFA, read the full answer, particularly NASA. And I like to, on a NASA exam, William, just before I jump in, say, okay, am I clear what they're asking me? Because, the language can be kind of convoluted, particularly when they say except, like all the following are prohibited except. I like to say, okay, so one of these things is okay. I'm looking for the thing that is okay, right? So you want to be real focused in that. I had a different young lady, William, but sometimes what I'll do is I'll cover up the NASA and the answer set in the practice question and say, let's project what we think the answer is going to be.
That's right.
And she gave me the most vulgar kind of a street answer. I said, okay, well, good news. That is the right answer. But when I do the reveal, it's not going to be said that way. So now what you got to do is shop the answer set and look for the legalese version of what you just said. So, well, thank you so much, William. We just crossed unbelievable 8 million views on the channel. Well, maybe that was William watching one video 8 million times. I don't know, but I appreciate it. I never my wildest dreams thought we'd have 8 million views on the channel. Taking 66 next week, feeling fairly confident. Love it. I know you guys preach not to stress about math. What formulas should you know? Any of the present value? I'm not sure what PF means. No, I don't think an analytical method's being able to calculate present value or future value or internal rate of return is going to be the math. Most of the math, only 3 or 4 max, is going to be about performance measures. Performance measures like total return, after-tax return, tax equivalent yield, that kind of thing, current yield. The other analytical methods part about present value, future value, discounted cash flow is mainly understanding the input and the output, not can you do it, and why would it be important, right? Why is the math informative? Not can you do the math, but why is using discounted cash flow as a valuation technique to determine present value an important thing, right? Because we want to then decide based on that valuation technique whether we're getting net present value, positive or negative, and decide whether we want to buy or sell the security. So that would be my thoughts on math. I think, a lot of test takers make a mistake in thinking it's math heavy. If they're math geeks and they love math, they think they're going to get a lot of it and they don't. And then other people who aren't math people, they kill themselves trying to, master the math and go down rabbit holes on math that isn't necessary. I say it this way. Well, if you tell me you missed your 66 next week because of math, I'm going to say, nah, you had a bigger problem elsewhere, my friend. Your thoughts on math, Brian?
Yeah. One other thing I would add is don't forget the liquidity ratios.
Oh yeah, balance sheet, absolutely. Working capital, current ratio, asset test ratio, right on. Thank you so much, Brian. So
May
that,
calculate it or simply know the inputs.
yeah, usually that would be recognition, but they might ask you calculate working capital. Got a 68. Go for it again in October. I love it. You're gonna, that's the way to respond to the misfortune. There are all kinds of men and women who do very well in our business who have missed the exam. We don't recommend it, but now you have to pass another test, a test of your resiliency, and that is a bigger test, by the way. And I think a lot of times managers don't worry too much. I'm going to paint with a broad brush here. I would tell you that most supervisors don't really care too much. I mean, they want you to pass, but if you get a high 60, what they're then looking about is how do you respond to that misfortune? And then, if they're going to re-sponsor you. Most know a high 60 score is not a result of not putting in the work. They know you put in the work, and unfortunately, whatever variable it was, you didn't pass, and most would send you back. But now you're going to test the passive resiliency, and I think that also is very important for your employer to know that that's what you want to do, is that you want to get back on that, go back in the cave, and as I say, slay the Series 7 dragon, right? You got a good look at him. He's still there, or in this case, whatever exam it is, got to go slay it. So October is good. I just give you, again, I don't know, I don't want to put out negative vibes, but when people miss twice, a lot of times what happens is they're too focused on the draw that's in the past and not the draw that you're going to get. The draws are random, right? So make sure you overlearn everything. You bring everything better, make every subject area better, not just the areas you were weak in. You got to plug those gaps, and then you got to make sure you keep everything else above par as well. Brian, your thoughts?
Yeah. And, I think I've really gotten, especially for the NASA exams, I've gotten my process when I help people the second or third time with their test. And we first find those pain points. We find the weak areas first, and we work on that. Because, again, one of my cliches, right? The chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Right. So we find those pain points and use your or my videos and Kaplan custom quizzes, small ones. And once we worked on those, then we take another simulated. That way we still have the rest of the stuff. Right. Then we find another pain point and we work on that and review the videos and do a short quiz and then do another simulated exam. So, because you got to keep all of it up.
Yeah.
Find the pain points, but also maintain the other good points.
I love it. I love it. That's nuggets, dropping nuggets, Brian. Since the COVID era, wow, Yasha. I do remember, Yasha, you joining us in the seasons past.
Wow.
I like that she says it's now her Series 7 season. Because, Yasha has been with us long enough to know that I always say that Brian and I come into your life for a reason and a season. The reason is to help you pass your exams, make your marks. The season is how long that takes. We are at 60,000 subscribers on the channel. And I think it's funny, Brian, because I do lose subscribers and I get it. They say, Dean, the reason the season is over, see you later. So I get it, right? Some people then, I joke, they hear me say this and they go, Dean, the reason the season's over, and I'm going to keep my subscription. I go, oh, well, thank you so much. Right? The subscribers are a meaningless metric as it relates to YouTube channels and YouTube and creators like me. But it is fun to have subscribers. What YouTube is really interested in is watch time and views. But thank you so much, Josh. We'll get you through this season too. And then, Brian, what a turn on it is for us, I think, Brian, when people come into the securities industry, we've helped them come into this industry, and now they're using their registrations, helping their clients and helping their family, and we get to see the results of that. I think that is such a cool thing to see people in our industry. And I was joking with Brian earlier that you would think it'd be the opposite. As I get older, I'm even more excited about the young men and women who are taking up the baton or the torch, whatever you want to call it, in the security industry. I go, man, these are some quality men and women coming into our business. In your 66 place, is it in order? Yes, it is. It's in, as I said, Anthony, suggested watch order. It's a buffet, right? suggested watch order. Some ways to differentiate BD and AA rules for the 66. Well, yeah, I think it's always very important to read the question once and be very clear about what securities professional you're being asked about. I use the analogy, Anthony, of a playbill. When I go to see a play, I like it if they give me a playbill with a list of the cast of characters in case I get lost. I can kind of go, oh, who's that guy again? Or I love on Prime, Amazon Prime or Netflix. I go, man, that actor looks familiar. And I hit the button. Oh, yeah. And they tell me about him. I go, oh, yeah. So I like to read the question once and say, okay, what is securities professional is this about? There's 4 of them: broker dealers, agents of broker dealers, investment advisors, investment advisor reps. So I first read the question and say, okay, which security professional are they asking me about? For the most part, the BD is a different animal altogether in terms of the regulatory framework than our investment advisors. Most of these questions are going to be about registration. How do we register a securities professional? If not, why not? And most of those are going to be about investment advisor and investment advisor reps. So I would kind of use my own kind of framing questions before I jump into the question to make sure I'm clear. How many times, Brian, have we seen somebody get a question wrong that was the right answer to a question not asked because they were being asked about a federally covered investment advisor, and they're getting all wrapped up in de minimis? Brian's got a practice question I love. He gives you, it goes, I'm paraphrasing, state A, state B, 10 clients in state C and D. And then you don't catch, he's asking you about a federally covered investment advisor rep, which means they only got to register in the state they have a place of business. So that's an example. Your thoughts on this, Brian? Do you have any advice on how to keep these?
Absolutely. Again, I know you do it, and I do it as well on our video courses. Hopefully, he's asking which videos to watch. Because again, when you see this stuff, somebody draws it out, explains it.
Oh boy, yeah.
Context around it, then you can get it.
Anthony,
I post my cheat sheet for.
I know that was coming. So Anthony,
it's kind of fallen off a little bit. I'm not spending half of my day anymore. So
yeah, good. Okay,
bring them on.
So, there you go. So Anthony, Brian has been kind enough to all our viewers. We'll see on the replay how many requests he now gets. Brian has. I don't like that he calls it a cheat sheet, Anthony, because I'm always afraid someone's going to take this to the exam, forget they have it, leave it there. But I use it in tutoring. It's really great. It's the kind of like the playbill I'm discussing. I literally, Brian, use it when I tell people, okay, where do you think you are in the cheat sheet? There's you, there's your firm, there's that. So Brian is offering that to you. And I think I have his email, Brian at testgeekexamprep, no, just testgeekexam.com or prep?
Examprep.com.
Exam prep. So let me put that down. Brian at
flags, right?
Examprep.com. There we go. So banner.
It used to be one.
So send that to Brian. He'll do that. Now, the other thing, Anthony, we have that Brian, we got to start doing that again, Brian. We did an evening class, and I asked Brian to be a guest, teacher, guest lecturer, and we called it what? Definitions of registration.
Definitions and registration of persons.
And boy, Anthony, that video has made so many contributions. To
find it on his playlist. It's worth your time for 63.
I think I have it right at the front, but just if you go to search bar, put definition, it'll pop up, and that's a great video that does. It's kind of like a video of the cheat sheet. I'm making this up.
Kind of it, yeah, because I built the cheat sheet.
Kind of is. That's what I would kind of think of it as. So right on, Brian. So Brian's going to offer freebies. All right. Now remember, he also has some free content. Registration of agents and advisors. Well, there we go.
There you go.
That's what we're talking about. So the agent can't be registered if the broker dealer is not. I think the big thing, Lucy, is remember there's no de minimis for broker dealers or agents of broker dealers. You have one retail client, you have to register, right? So, and then advisors are much different because they're either federally covered or they're not. If they're not, then they register with the state, and then there's all these other things. On the state is where it gets messy. There's de minimis and there's other things, but
same thing. Watch that video.
Watch the video. Get the cheat sheet, Lucy.
Yeah.
Brian at testgeekexamprep.com. Ooh, freebies. Test question on NASA exams. If Brian were an investment advisor and he offered you a free complimentary portfolio review at no cost or obligation, he would have to make good on it, right? So now that he's made that offer, He has to make good.
Without contingencies.
Without contingencies. Good evening, Dean and Brian. Last Tuesday, passed the SIE. If you're new with us, we ring the bell.
What is your cocktail du jour? There you go.
Tonight, we are our toasting beverage for testing victories is Herradura Ultra. This is a double distilled tequila, and that's why it's clear, not because it's a Blanco, because it's been double distilled. And that is our toasting beverage tonight. And let me just pour a little Herradura Ultra. And cheers to your testing victory. I like my glass. That's what I do. I drink and I know things. And good news for me, I know things that people are willing to pay for. Mighty 90. Love it. Mighty 90. Brian, I don't know if I told you, I'm going to redo the Carolina, the playlist. I did a very popular video on SIE in 60 minutes. And then people asked me to redo it. I don't like doing the same thing twice. So I thought, and when I started the channel, Carolina, I was told that people wouldn't watch hour-long videos, that you could only make like 15-minute videos. And, that's not what I do. Now we have all kinds of different things. But I thought, Brian, I'll make a 90-minute video. And I call that series the Mighty 90. So now I have a series 6, a 60-minute version of these things. Now I'm working on Mighty 90s. I have them for most of them. And then I decided, well, maybe people want something a little lighter. And so now I'm working on Dirty 30s.
Oh, geez.
So I got Dirty 30s, Mighty 90s. And I'm going to put these in a playlist called, a whole playlist, 30, 60, 90, the day before or morning of your exam. And then you can pick whether you want to do the 30-minute version, the 60-minute version. They are different, by the way. People say, oh, it's the same thing. I go, obviously, you didn't watch the videos because they're not the same thing. They're different. 2 more to go. I love it. She's working on the hat trick. I say the journey of 3-0 begins with 1-0. So yeah. She's got the first leg of her hat trick in place. Love it. Pass my Series 7. Woohoo!
There you go.
When you're off grid, you got to give yourself a reason to have fun, Brian's Test Geek helped me tremendously.
Thank
Not
you.
surprised. Not my question. My firm gave me. Okay, well, here we go. I think. Well, why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think if you give Brian supplement once again, I would tell you. I think it's important with Exam FX and training consults to supplement either paid or free.
Please.
I'm free. And the way I say it, Brian, is I think they're a little too skinny.
Exactly. They're a little thin. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Past Perfect is a little fat, but, better to be fat than skinny when it comes to content. Right. So please do supplement. I highly recommend Brian. We give you 20% off on Brian's content. So he has supplements for each of these paid supplements. So get that again. I think one of the strongest parts, besides his video distillations and his skills and prowess as a teacher, is his practice tests and the correlation. So make sure you get that too, so you can get a good mark of where you're at. So yeah, I would definitely supplement. If you want to get a Kaplan Q Bank, I also recommend that as a paid supplement. Yes. Got a performance tracker. That's $50-$60 depending on the exam. Again, you have a 15% discount. And I really do believe in supplementing in almost every situation. I don't really think you should be monogamous as a test taker. You should avail yourself of any resource that will help you make your mark. And a lot of times that would be a paid supplement. Brian, a Kaplan Q Bank, whatever it is that you need. Do you guys know why Kaplan scores out of 10 more than the actual test? Well, I wouldn't say 10 more, Eric. I say the variance in Kaplan back in the day, when they gave passing scores as well as failing scores, Kaplan would track the Kaplan Mastery exam against reported scores. And the variance, Eric, was 5 to 12 points. I think it's because Kaplan wants you to be pleasantly surprised. They want to stretch your mind and hope it doesn't go back to the same spot. I told you, Eric, it's why I like Brian's test, because the variance is smaller, but it has strong correlation. And Eric, I tell this story about Kaplan. I had a guy, and he wasn't happy with his Kaplan practice test scores. And I said, well, we got to be resilient. We got to keep working. Kind of what Brian was talking about earlier. We got to keep attacking I forget what you called it, like weak areas or whatever it is. Yeah. And then he bought a competitor to Kaplan. And the practice score on Kaplan was 65. And I told him, I said, well, listen, you're not as far away as you think. So give yourself some grace and let's continue to work. And then he bought another QBank, another provider, test provider. And he was so happy because his next score was 85. And I said, well, no, that's a red flag, my friend. That's not a good thing. That's a bad thing. We shouldn't have variance from 65 to 85. I said, do me a favor. I said, Kaplan, as I told you, is 5 to 12. So I think you're really, as it relates to the actual test, I think you're somewhere between 70 and, passing. I said, well, take Brian's practice test. And Brian, he got a 65 on your test, closer to the Kaplan score. Unfortunately, that's what he got on the test. And so, you don't want to feel good score. When you're doing intellectual inventories with practice tests, you want to score. But I would tell you, Eric, that the guys at Kaplan, the subject matter experts, are bigger jerks than the real jerks that write the test. Now, they're probably, I know them well. Chuck Lowenstein is the NASA guy. Bill James is the 7 guy. And they intentionally want to be a little tougher than the actual exam. And sometimes Brian and I get on a little rant because, our friends Bill and Chuck sometimes have what I call gotcha questions. So you thought, you got some thing that goes into the weeds. But for the most part, I think Kaplan is on the broad avenues and highways better than some other test prep vendors. Doing remedies. So remember, you're taking part of your exam is legal. And remedy is the term for, a legal thing. Like, look about Alphabet, right? How many of us were surprised when the judge ruled that it was a monopoly, but then he didn't make them as a remedy divest themselves of anything. He says, even though I've ruled that you are a monopoly, the venue, the landscape has changed so much that I do think your consumers have choices. And so I'm not going to make you divest Waymo or the search engine or YouTube or whatever. But remedy is that legal term. Now, as it relates to NASA, a remedy might be offering the right of rescission to a customer, where we say, hey, Brian, I blew it, man. Well, what can I tell you? I didn't defraud you, Brian, but I didn't blue sky this properly. Would you like to keep the investment or would you like your money back? You have 30 days to decide. The right of rescission is a remedy that would be provided, right? So that's what remedy means. Administrative provisions, I'm not sure. That's a big thing, but administrative provisions legally is this idea that the state administrator has jurisdiction, but he doesn't have a badge and a gun, right? So the administrator can do a lot of nasty things to you, but he can't arrest you, for example. That is not a remedy available in terms of administrative provisions. I wouldn't worry about remedies, administrative provisions too much, because as we said in those 45 questions about laws and regs on 66, the vast majority of them are going to be registration of securities professionals, disclosures, and unethical business practices.
Exactly.
So I don't think this is a big deal. Brian, would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I do. I would probably guess 3 to 5 actually on the remedies and provisions. There's always the jurisdiction question. Can they suspend your registration? There's 2 of them there.
Rescission, about 3, 5, and 10, 3 years, $5 grand.
Exactly. So there's your 3 questions there.
There you go. For the most part, we would want those questions because for the most part, they're aim and shoot, point and click questions.
They are. They're not that.
They're recognition. There's not like you got to read the paragraph to figure out what the heck's going on.
Right.
I use Past Perfect. Well, like I say, I thought we should start a Past Perfect support group. I was so mad yesterday, Brian. So mad because we would go over. The problem is we were just talking about scores. I, as her tutor, know she knows this stuff way better than her Past Perfect practice test score reflects. And literally, we're going over question after question that I just know she's not going to see. And it just hurts my heart. Now, I think they've convinced employers that, not only should they be able to pass their test, they need product knowledge. And I don't agree with that. I think product knowledge comes from sales efforts, not passing the test. Passing the test is just a rite of passage. So, for what it's worth, I'm sympathetic. Maybe on the side, I don't want you to get in trouble with your firm who's maybe using Past Perfect and compelling to use Past Perfect, but maybe on the side get a Kaplan Q Bank or Brian's supplement to just maybe, kind of help you get through that Past Perfect content. Series 4, registered option principle. Woohoo! I've been retaking full-length SY without prior prep and studying low 80s, 70s. Wow, what else should you be doing? I love it. I would just I add that I think what you're doing, rinse and repeat. That sounds like it's working. I would just warn you, Nima, be careful, because sometimes people overdose on option strategies, right, and not the actual sales supervision component. So make sure you overdose on sales supervision. We earlier, Nima, we had somebody asking about a strangle. I don't think it's a Series 7 question, but and some of those higher strategies like condors and butterflies, and I think Series 4 sometimes, if maybe they already have a background, so it's not a big deal. But my point is, it's not going to kill them. I say, listen, that the option strategies, advanced strategies, aren't going to kill you on the floor. It's going to be not paying attention to the sales supervision component. Your thoughts on Series 4, Brian?
That's exactly right. I see it so many times. They want to take my Series 7 options portion. I go, no, there's just too much of it. That's not what the 4 is about. It's about supervising reps who are selling these option strategies. You need to know and recognize them, right? But you don't need to solve them like you did on Series 7.
Yeah, again, recognizing like a ratio right has unlimited risk, for example, right? Because you're writing 2 calls, you only got 100 shares, that kind of thing is definitely there. So I like what you're doing. We do the weekly jam session, Nima, and you're welcome. I do have a Series 4 playlist. Check that out on my YouTube channel. So I do have some content there for you. You could always reach out to me if you have a particular question, dean@guruexamprep.com. I take great pleasure in helping people get through their principal exams. I like, Brian, I don't know if you, what I like the being on the barbell of this. Welcome to the securities industry. Help you with your SIE 7. And then, hey, you're now a peer. You've made it. You're now going to be a registered option principal. Hey, there's a place at the bar for you.
Yeah.
Good evening, Dean and Brian. I passed my 66 this morning.
Passed the hat trick. Yes.
Oh, love it, love it, love it. Hat tricker in the house. I wouldn't, I don't know why you wouldn't believe Brian and I about testable content of your exam, but we love when victorious test takers like Frankie join us and give us, a victory update. It's good for morale. It boosts people's spirits. And if he's still here, I'm running a little behind, feel free to ask him about his testing victory, right? So,
and notice he watched the 66 podcast. Anybody taking the 66?
Brian and I, we obviously we love it, but we are OGs. We want you to read the book. But Brian and I know that some people probably aren't. And so one thing that we love about our podcast series for the 65 and 66 is it kind of would be like reading the book cover to cover, not trying to take notes, just to see what it looks like. So we think our 66 and 65 podcast is a great recon, a great, way to kind of see what the terrain ahead looks like before you jump in. So I'm glad to see that you watched that. It warms our hearts for sure. For someone finished reading the Series 7, taking chapter quiz, I know I should take a practice exam. What should you recommend I should do besides that? Well, Edward, I'd like to know your test date. You should be doing a practice exam 7 to 10 days out, but add some videos there, right? You add videos to put a dent in the reading, or after the reading to consolidate the reading. So I would add videos to this mix. I would get those chapter quizzes. Make sure Brian and I are big believers in not just doing a chapter quiz on the unit you're working on. Do that. Get a 75, but then doing combined quizzes where you combine the last 2 units with the unit you just did. So you keep bringing up that caboose, so to speak. So that's what I would add. You got any other things you'd add?
No, I was just going to say, because for me, it's a 3-pillar process. Reading the textbook, right? And doing a couple of doing the chapter quizzes along the way. But in the middle, now you want to consolidate that stuff. Yep. And that's what Dean and I do. This is what you need to concentrate on. Here's how it most likely looks on the test. Here's how you should answer it on the test. So that second pillar is watching Dean's videos, getting my video course.
I just want to add, Brian, to what you said. Please note what Brian said. How you should answer on the test.
Exactly.
You know, you're going to pass your Series 7, Edward, and you're going to get to leave Series 7 Fantasyland and get back to the real world. Brian and I are stuck in Series 7 Fantasyland permanently. No wonder we're demented. But Brian, how often has somebody wanted to argue with us about an answer to a question? I'm like, listen, answer it however you want. I don't care. But I'm telling you, on the test, that's going to be the wrong answer. Right. You can articulate to me all you want about how in the real world this is how it would be answered, or you know, hey, sometimes I just give up in frustration. I said, Brian, do what you want, man. You know, yeah. I've tried to help you. Hey, all right, I love it. Thanks you for the referral. I'll ring a bell for a referral. The vast majority of the channel's success has been the contributions we make to testing victories and referrals from victorious test takers to their colleagues. So thank you so much for the referrals.
I talked to one today or yesterday. I talked to one of her referrals yesterday. I think. Yeah.
Perfect. Love it. Love it. We love referrals. And, you know, at the end of the day, our business is pretty simple. People pass their test, they're happy. They don't pass their test, they're not happy. Hopefully it's not our fault they didn't pass their test. You know? Take it 24. All right. We have a registered option principal in the making in the house. We got general securities principal in the house. Love it. Don't want to ask open questions here, but I can't seem to understand the buy and sellouts. I'm going to give Brian his screen.
No.
To the glory. No. We're laughing because we have a magic pill for you.
We absolutely do. We don't say that very often, but this one we do.
We have a magic pill for you. So, Phil, I want you to go to Brian's YouTube channel, Test Geek Exam Prep. He has a video on buy-ins and sellouts. I've literally had Phil 24. I'm literally crying. Oh my God. Thank you so much for that video. So go watch that video. And if you still have questions, reach out to Brian at testgeekexamprep.com or reach out to me, Dean at guruexamprep.com. We're more than happy to help you. Now, I don't think it's a big deal on your 24. There are other more target-rich environments, but it can be, I think, there. And Brian, you know, he's got his whiteboard in this video, Phil, and walks you through it, and it's beautiful. I keep thinking I'm going to make that video, and every time I think about it, I go, why? I mean, Brian's already got the best video out there, so why make another one? The world doesn't need two buy in and sell out videos, particularly when Brian's is the best. So check that out. Let us know. I'll be looking, Phil. Let us know, you know, if you need help, email us, but also drop us an email and confirm that, you know, it cleared it up for you. We think it will, but if for some reason it doesn't, and if it does, let us know that too, because we like to know it's still working for people. 66, John Woo. Oh, look at that avatar. I like that avatar. That's pretty cool. He's there at the NASDAQ site there. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd like to pay it forward. There you go. So John's in the chat. You got Reddit? Yeah. Well, be careful on Reddit. It can damage your psyche if it's too quick to things. And I'm on Reddit. We have a subreddit, R Series 7, and there's a battle of the subreddits. There's a lot of drama that doesn't have to do with test taking, but you can certainly find a lot of.
I don't have the slightest clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, Brian doesn't. Brian is not in social media print, so he doesn't get involved in the drama. Literally last week, I don't know when we talked last, Brian. Ken Finnan accidentally put my video on his screen in his live stream. And then he actually plagiarized an answer to a question from my video word for word without attribution. And so, needless to say, him and I got into it today on Reddit. So always fun. Get some popcorn. Taking the test tomorrow. Oh, my goodness. What are you doing here? There's nothing besides getting a good night's rest that would be helpful. So, Ada, you need to be getting night and dreaming of that, making your mark, as Brian says, getting that P. Ada, I do have, in this short time frame, I only have one thing that can make the difference. And the one thing that can make the difference is before you go to bed this evening, I want you to go in the bathroom. I want you to look in the mirror. And I want you to say, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest test taker of them all? Ada, Ada, Ada. And then in the morning, when you get your good night's sleep, you've been counting those practice correct answers to your questions. I want you to do it again. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest test taker of them all? Ada, Ada, Ada. By the way, if you have enough confidence, maybe halfway through your exam, you go into the restroom, look in the mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall. I had a guy who did that, Brian. He said the Prometric site was cracking up every taking the test. You are welcome. You are welcome. Ada, all the very best. You got this. There you go. Remember, I'm joking. Let me go back here. Yeah, no, Ada, I'm not joking. I would do that. So that's not a joke. But the biggest thing I would tell you, so let's get serious. I want you to be confident in the execution of your study plan because it's over. You've executed your study plan. The night before, you shouldn't be doing anything. You should just be working on your game face, your psyche, guarding it. Be confident in yourself. And then most importantly, tomorrow, be confident in your answers. Do not be changing answers. Do not be sucking up. Brian and I talked about this earlier. Don't be going, what if they meant? They don't. They don't. Pass the Series 7. All right. Woo! Well, isn't it funny? Eland, I don't know how we pronounce that. I apologize. But yeah, some people, I got no options. And then some people say, oh, I got, lots of options. So, if you understand them, then hey, you got Brian's option chart. You saw Dado 15 for sure. For people joining us, Dado 15 is a memory aid device about the chronological sequence, which is very testable in terms of opening the option account. The D is disclosure. I give you the disclosure document. I say, Brian, this is the characteristics and risks of options. This is all the bad things that can happen to you. You can't possibly read this while awake because it's 100 plus pages. D is disclosure. A is account approval. I say, Brian, I'm going to go back to my registered option principle, our Series 4. We have one in the house. Joining us in chat, he'll be a Series 4 here shortly. And he's going to say, Dean, did you give Brian the disclosure document? I say yes, right? He approves the account. That's the A. Disclosure, account approval. I say, hey, Brian, I got your account approved. We could do our first trade. That's the T. Brian, you have 15 days from account approval to get back to me the option agreement. That's the O, the option agreement. If you don't have that back in 15 days, we're only going to allow you to do closing transactions. So that is a very testable sequence, and Dado 15 is a memory aid device for that. Taking the Series 7 Monday, I hope I pass. Eric, were you with us last Tuesday when I gave somebody grief for this? I don't want you to say you hope you're going to pass. I want you to say, I'm going to pass. Excellent. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the greatest Series 7 test taker of them all? Eric, Eric, Eric. Hurrah, right? So we don't want to hope. We don't want to hope. We want to make it happen. Make it happen. Right? You don't want your quarterback to say, well, gee, Brian, I hope we win today. You want a Baker Mayfield. You want a guy who, we're going to win, right? Even we're down 2 touchdowns, right? So I'm teasing you, Eric. I'm teasing you. But, positive affirmation is important. Your psyche is worth points. Brittany, I like that. Brittany. I hope I'm not putting too much of an accent on the A part. Brittany. Taking the 66 Monday after failing with 68. So you went into the cave and you saw the Series 66 Dragon, got a good look at him. He's still there. But, now you're going to go back again. And I think you're going to find the points. You scored high 70s. I think you should feel confident. Even if you don't, pretend you are. Fake it till you make it. But yeah, I think you have every reason to be confident. 68, got a good look. You know what you needed to work on. You've done the work. So I would be surprised. If I pass tomorrow, what is it with if I hope? I don't like if I hope. What is this language coming from? When you pass tomorrow, Ada, when you pass, we will feel gratified that we contributed to that testing victory. And you will be here next Tuesday. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. For those of you who are hoping and people who, if they pass, I banish that. I banish that language. I'm ringing the testing victory bell early for you. You're all going to pass. You're all going to come back Tuesday. I'm going to ring it again, and I'm going to drink again. Don't overdose on margin. Absolutely. Only 3 or 4 questions. Pass the SIE. Woo! Yeah, you need sponsorship for your 7, but Joy, hey, they know you can pass an SIE. You showed some initiative, so I think that will help in your search for sponsorship. Absolutely. 2 or 3, that's normal that we get that debrief. Yeah. Listen, I was just complaining about Past Perfect. I have a video called "Hellacious Margin Questions" from you're never going to see from Past Perfect. And this person paid me an hour of tutoring to go through these margin questions. I don't tell you, it hurts my heart. I charge $375 an hour. And hey, if you do an opening purchase and go along a tutoring session, we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. But in this case, I felt bad that we're talking about margin questions she's never going to see on her exam. I had a bad draw on Series 7, had 10 balance sheet questions. Wow. That is really high. 5 to 7 variable. Yeah, variables, and I would believe that. Right here too. So let's take care of that. I was just joking about Marcel. I was just telling a joke that I'm current on all my coaching calls except the 5 hours I owed Marcel. Right. So I will tell Mom you say hello. I got to get Brian to do it. Right. His significant other. We might have to kidnap him, but we're going to get him there, Marcel, one way or another.
Not until after the World Series.
Yeah, his team, Marcel, the Seattle Mariners, is killing it. And Brian's got tickets for the playoffs. He told me he's got tickets for the World Series. I'm not going to use the word if or hope. He's got, yeah, that's right. He's got tickets when they're in the World Series, right? Yeah. So, yeah, definitely after that. STC book, why not? Take it, No, I think a book is a book, to be honest with you. I mean, the Kaplan book, STC book, I don't really care about that. If we're just as long as you read the damn book cover to cover. But, if you think that, sometimes I joke it's like a coach, right? You lose the locker room. If you need a different voice, then by all means, buy another book or buy somebody else's course. But I don't think it's necessary. Do you think it's necessary to buy a Kaplan book if you have an STC book?
No, the STC book is good. I more am concerned about the quality of test questions.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah,
platform, that kind of thing. The textbook is the textbook. It's
best advice. I don't know. Pretty broad, Eric. Pretty broad question. Best advice for Series 7 test takers.
Pass. That's the best advice I can give. Pass.
STC is fine. Yeah, the STC. There's nothing wrong with STC. I think STC and Kaplan are neither too fat nor too thin.
Right.
Whereas I think other test preventers are either too thin or too fat. 66. Woohoo! Oh, consolidation. I like it. I call it, Monica, distillation. The consolidation, distillation. We can call Brian the master consolidator or the master distiller, whatever you want to call him. And that recommendation, I'm sure he appreciates it. Remember, we get
that core content, man. It's that core content everybody gets on the test. You might get 10 random, God knows where they come from questions, but there's 90% of the content that everybody gets, and you've got to be good on it.
That's right. And remember, Brian gives you 20% discount, Guru 20, if you want to get his stuff.
Oh, and that
pass the SIE. Woo! Joe Kennedy. Is Joe Kennedy your relative? Is that your great grandpa? Joe Kennedy was the first chairman of the SEC. And when President Roosevelt made him the first chairman of the SEC, all the new dealers were really upset. They said, how could you put a fox in charge of the hen house?
Yeah,
He's one of the biggest securities crooks around. And President Roosevelt said, who better as a gameskeeper than a reformed poacher? That's right. He knows all the games. He's going to shut them down. Study the book, watching your videos, waiting for job offers. So there you go. Well, pace yourself, Joey. If you don't have a sponsorship, you don't want to run out of fuel before you stick the landing, right? He's trying to get me to join his company, Life Insurance Pre-America. I always believe some jobs better than no job. And if you have an opportunity to get your 7, take it. Yeah, if they'll give you your 7, sometimes they want to give you a 6. So, I'd make sure you hold out for a 7. Be studying in license, that's fine. It could backfire. Joy, be careful. They make you sign something that you got to reimburse them like $1 gazillion if you take advantage of their training, and then training, not sponsorship, but training. So just be careful about what the expectations are on both sides of that. But I don't think it'll blow up on you. 30-minute video a day, my dirty 30s coming your way. Run for the hills with training consultants. Monday, Brian, your video seems so much easier than going through your explications, Dean. Well, I don't know what
two different things.
Yeah, so I'm not hurt if Brian is your guy, go with Brian, right? So my explications, well, remember, I am taking the explication, just going through the content now, and he's trying to have a narrative thread to what he's doing.
It's so two different things. Yeah.
But listen, I'm not hurt. I'm not hurt at all. There's, hello, Dean Brian, taking my SIE tomorrow afternoon. Should I watch the Mighty 90 or take a mock? I would watch the Mighty 90. I don't know what your test scores are, so that would be something I would do that. And hopefully you've done them. So if you haven't done a mock,
hopefully he's had it.
I might, Drew, add to that. Make sure you take the FINRA. If you're going to take I wouldn't take a Kaplan mock. If you're going to do another exam, do the SIE one on the FINRA website. And it looks like we're coming to close here. Pass the SIE. If I did well, would I be close? No. The 65 is a completely different dragon. The SIE is not a fire-breathing dragon. The 65 is a fire-breathing dragon, right? So, yeah, I would not want you to think there's a lot of overlap. Took the 99 back in 2008, took the 7 2004. They changed it, failed. Credit, I'm now skipping the 7s, now taking 7, skipping the SIE. Yeah, I sometimes forget, Edward, when I'm teaching the 7 next week. The assumption I make is everybody took an SIE like 2 weeks before, and that for some people like you, that's not the case. So you might have to spend a little more time laying the base, because what I kind of think of the 7, Edward, is the 7 used to be 2 3-hour sessions, and they kind of bifurcated with the SIE and the 7. So you're going to be missing some base, I think is the way I'd say it. So make sure you do that. You are a monopoly with choices. I think I used to use that when I was a broker. I'd say, Brian, I understand you have another broker, but nobody has a monopoly on ideas.
I used to say the same thing. Yeah.
Thanks for the explanation. We say the biggest issue on the test feels more knowledge or test taking skills. Well, Brian, I think I agree that if you miss the test with a high 60 in the retake, it could be test taking skills that you're doing in and not knowledge. I mean, 68, I used to tell people when they didn't have a 30-day wait period just to queue it up again, because, you might get a draw you could pass. So I think it could be test taking skills. Your thoughts, Brian?
Absolutely. Yeah. Every one of my video courses, I tell people knowing how to take a standardized multiple choice exam is the difference between a 68 and a 70.
I agree with that. Yeah. So it's unfortunate. I take some heat because I do in my YouTube channel and in my tutoring, I do teach test taking tips and tricks. Right. And people say, oh, you got to know the information. I go, but when all those fails, being a good test taker and knowing some tips and tricks might be helpful. Exam is Monday using STC. Looking great. We expect you, Bam, to be back next Tuesday with a victory post telling us that you made it. You slayed your Series 7 dragon. Completed the hat trick. Woo! How would you rate it compared to other exams? I'm not sure. 57 while trading. I don't think the trading has as much depth. It's not as wide. I'll put it that way. It's more depth, right? So, there's a famous say by Isaiah Berlin about hedges and foxes, and in terms of intellectuals. And a hedgehog is something who knows a lot about a little. And a fox is somebody who knows a little about a lot. Foxes are kind of clever. Hedgehogs are not. So I would say the 7 is more like a fox. You got to know a lot of things. 57, you got to be a hedgehog as it relates to trading. So they're just different exams, I think. Yeah. Taking the 63, what percentage do I need scoring on a Kaplan? We like to be in the mid 70s. And Brian's course, there's a pretty strong correlation. I started my journey a year ago, now past wow, look at that. Woo-hoo!
Wow.
Eric, man, that's a lot of testing victory. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Time to go to work.
Well, it looks like we got some more here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do our drawing, and then I'll come back and I'll finish up answering any remaining questions. I thought we only had 2 or 3, but it looks like we still got people showing up late and so forth. So let me go get our Wheel of Fortune. And don't put anything in the chat to participate until Brian puts on the board the thing that we'll pick up. You want to participate? Okay, Brian, I'm ready for whatever you want to put on the board. Something about the Mariners?
Closely related.
Okay, so if you want to participate, put it exactly as Brian has it on his board in the chat. And we will then do our drawing and see who wins the coaching call. So let me go get the Wheel of Fortune and share that with you. There's our Wheel of Fortune. Okay. And Eric, let's get that. Now remember, if you win, you do not win a tutoring at a date and time of your choice. What you win is a coaching call, and you can claim your winning at deantinneytutoring.setmore.com. All right. Anybody else want to participate? Going once. Going twice.
Let me pull over first. That's funny.
I like that. Yeah, please don't. We never had that happen.
Yeah, don't do it.
That would be bad.
No.
Brian, if I was the sole proprietor, they probably.
I was thinking the same thing. I said, I'm glad Test Geek is an LLC.
So I had a wreck because I was watching the Dean's YouTube live stream. All right, 14 entries. Are we ready to spin? It's going to be funny if Marcel wins again. Oh, Noah. All right, Noah. So go to deantinneytutoring.setmore.com. I don't have the coaching call up there yet because I just did one yesterday. So give me till tomorrow afternoon. But you go to the class tab, you'll see coaching call for drawing winners. And you just hit that. It'll send you a Zoom link and you show up and we talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. All right, let's get rid of that. Boom, boom, boom. Remove. Brian, thank you so much. I'm going to continue on to answer these questions. I'll be with you in spirit tomorrow for your Mariners.
Yes.
You know, are they playing in Seattle? Or are they playing in?
I'm not going to Toronto. They're in Seattle.
Toronto. Okay, cool. Oh, and you have tickets for tomorrow's game?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, how exciting. All right, Brian. We'll be with you in spirit, and we're all wishing your Mariners another victory. Right, one more. That would be 3.
That'd be 3.
Oh, that would be really cool, right? Because then they only need one of the next 3, and my math isn't so good. All right, everybody. Let me see what else you got for me, and I'll go back and I'll take care of those questions. Let's see. Thanks for the explanation. I think we did that one. I think STC BAM, as I told you, is a reputable vendor. I think their content is the same as Kaplan. It's not too fat. It's not too thin. How would you rate it compared to I think I answered that one already. I think I answered that one. I've read the book and watched Brian's course. You should be in good shape. We told you mid-70s. I think I answered that. I remember that. Man, that was a victorious test taker. Getting ready for the P. The P is for the pass. Right on. 50 questions at a time. Beginning 60. But should I be focusing on those sections before I move on? I don't know. That's a hard call, Edward. We'd like you to be in the mid-70s, but 4 chapters, 50 questions at a time. I like that. I wouldn't get bogged down. It depends what those chapters are, for example. I mean, if those 4 chapters are partnerships, margin, balance sheets, and variable life, move on. If those 4 chapters are munis, mutual funds, and options, do not move on. So I would be making that decision on what those 4 chapters are about. But we would like you to be in a mid-70 range, but we also don't want you to get bogged down and not be matriculating down the field into scoring position. There we go. Woo! All right, Cindy. That's the hat trick. Right on. 3 testing victories, registration testing victories. 63 on 30. If I start tomorrow, 14 days, that's plenty of time. That's plenty of time. I used to tell my brokers, you passed your 7 today on a Tuesday, I expect you to have the 63 done late next week. So that is plenty of time. How many hours should you study? You should be doing a lot of practice questions. I think maybe 2 study blocks of 90 minutes each would be sufficient. With a 30-minute break, that's 3 hours a day. The Mariners will win. There we go. They won that game in the 15th inning. That was crazy. I'm with you, Marcel. Talk about persistence. 15 innings. Crazy. Watching the playlist. I did, like I say, I'm pretty blessed. So, I had somebody, the other day was trying to send me a couple bucks, which I appreciate. I said, listen, it's not necessary, my friend. The securities industry has been very good to me. I'm very blessed. I retired rich, and I charge $3.75 an hour for tutoring. So it has been good to me, continues to be good to me. So, if somebody watches the channel, doesn't watch the channel, it's not a big deal. I'd like you to watch the channel. I think I can be helpful. But, as I say, there are other channels, there's other vendors, and Brian is my brother from another mother. So if you want to spend some money with Brian, I'm all for it. Our qualified variable annuity contribution is deductible. I wouldn't say it that way, Pat. If we're talking about a qualified variable annuity test question, we're talking about a TSA, a tax sheltered annuity, very testable. Tax sheltered annuities come from an employer, and that employer is either a 403B educational institution, not just the teachers, by the way, the nurse, the janitor, employees of the educational institution, not students, or employees of a 501c. Think here like maybe a hospital owned by the Sisters of Mercy, the nuns. And again, not just the doctor, the nurses, the janitors, not the patients. And that has a zero cost basis. None of the money in a tax sheltered annuity, qualified variable annuity, has ever had taxes paid on it. So everything coming out is taxable. If it's a non-qualified variable annuity, it doesn't come through your employer. You buy it on your own using after-tax money, and you do have a cost basis. And so that is a very testable kind of distinction. And then how it happens when you annuitize or you do a random distribution, very, very testable. I like that. I think that's a good plan. Why not, right? So now you got 3 more shots at it. No, 66 is 100 questions and not 130. So if you miss the 65, I think the 66, your plan B is going to work. I think your plan B is going to work. I like it. I don't like it as a plan A, but as a plan B, it's a great one. Okay, let's see. What's the difference between a coaching call? Well, coaching calls nowhere are free and tutoring sessions are not. Right? So that's the distinction. Quick question. Every week I look for a live group call, but I never see it under classes on the site. Am I missing something? Well, no. What you might be missing is I cap them. I don't want 40 people on that. So the one I put up, let me just see here. I can see what's going on with the one that's tomorrow. If it caps out, then it disappears because I think I got tomorrow capped at 10. So let me just see if that's still there. So that's probably what's happening. You're checking it out. And by the time you get there, so tomorrow is available. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. If you go to the class tab, you'll see the weekly Q&A jam session. I haven't put up the coaching call for drawing winners. I'll do that tomorrow because I'm current, except for Noah. For you, Noah, I'm current. So, but that will go up. And, if you don't find it, just tell me and I'll send you the link. And then the other thing I have that is up there is paid office hours for my paid students. Sometimes I'll invite somebody to that. So no, if we do our coaching call, I might say, hey, why don't you join me for that? So I don't think you're missing anything. It disappears when it hits the cap. So tomorrow's cap, I have it at 10 and we have some spots available. But if I went to look at that, there were 10, then you wouldn't see it. So I don't know if that makes sense, but so keep doing that or send me, my email is dean@guruexamprep.com. You can send me an email and I'm more than happy to send you a link. If it disappears, I'll send you the link. I'll overwrite the cap and let you in. Just keep it simple. Yeah, right. That's right. Eric, keep it simple. It looks like we got some people there. Do you have any videos on a dump sheet? Well, I have had a very popular video called Series 7 Tips, Tricks, and Memory Aids. And the back end of that video, I say you can use this for ideas about your data dump sheet. Everybody's would be different, and that's why I don't actually have a model one. But you can put data dump sheet in your Google machine, and all kinds of data dump sheets will come up. But you should make it your own. If I told you you could have one sheet of paper, front and back, anything on it you'd like, what would be on that sheet of paper? And if you every night try to flush that out, and every morning, because that's when your brain is best, by the time you got to the exam site, you'd be able to do that data dump, right? And I would certainly have my options matrix. I'd certainly have my teeter-totter. I might have some samples of some questions, whatever it is, if I said. But I know Achievable has a model data dump sheet. They got some things, Pat, on it that I wouldn't have on mine. Like they got this thing that I find more confusing than the actual information called the Mayhammer or some crazy thing. So, mnemonic devices, silo, cow, push, derp, Dado 15, that kind of thing. Any chance you can dummy down modern portfolio theory for me? Maybe of an example you would see on your test. Absolutely. Theory isn't truth. Theory is a way of explaining things. And the more a theory can explain, the better that theory is. Right? So that's our first thing. This isn't truth. It's informative in managing money. One thing you're definitely going to see on your exam about modern portfolio theory is the idea of adding additional diversification to a portfolio through what's called negative correlation. Under modern portfolio theory, Zamrito, if I have Exxon in my portfolio and add Chevron, I haven't really accomplished anything as it relates to diversification under modern portfolio theory because the correlation is pretty close to 1. I think of Home Depot and Lowe's, right? I mean, I can't tell those businesses apart. I walk in and I go, am I at Lowe's or Home Depot? So what modern portfolio would suggest is I should buy an investment with a negative correlation. The most I could get would be -1. In my example, I have Exxon. Maybe I add Delta to the portfolio, the airline company. Delta and Exxon have negative correlation, right? If oil prices go up, that's good for Exxon, but bad for Delta because they use jet fuel. If oil goes down, that's bad for Exxon, but that's good for Delta. So the idea that I'm adding this negative correlation to the portfolio under modern portfolio theory says I'm getting additional diversification by doing so. On your exam, that'll be a simple number. And they'll ask what would ask the least diversification. And there would be the one that has positive correlation, is close to 1. And then what would provide the most diversification in a modern portfolio? And that'd be the one that approximates -1, right? I still have a doctor. I know, Zambrito, you're saying let it go. 30 years later, I'm still mad at this guy. And we got lucky and we bought the stock at 90. The stock went to 180. And I said, doctor, we can buy a 175 put at 4. We can buy some insurance on the stock position, and we would have a guaranteed profit. We'd have, 90 for the stock, 4 points for the protection. Route 94, anytime between now and expiration, we could sell at 175. He didn't do it. The thing I'm maddest about, Zamrito, that he didn't do it is we would have had perfect negative correlation from the stock and the put contract, right? If the stock goes to 160, that 175 put is worth 15 points. The 15 points we lost on the stock would be made up in the intrinsic value of the put. And the thing I'm mad about just intellectually is how many times are we going to get perfect negative correlation? By the way, it was kind of fun to call him every day and remind him that had he bought that put, every dollar he'd be down on the stock, he'd be up on the put. Right? So there's an example of a correlation. And that is very much the example that you're going to see. 3 practice tests on, well, Jack, thank you so much. Yeah, I can buy some more tequila. I love Brian Marks. He's a hell of a guy. He's Notman Marks, Brian Marks. I love him. They are white glove. I mean, they charge a pretty penny like Dean does for tutoring, but they deliver on that added value. They are tougher, so mid-60s. I don't think it's a time to panic. I listened to the Mighty 90 and we'll listen tomorrow. Do you think I'm going to pass? I do, Jack. If you don't panic, right, you got to stay calm, cool, and collected. And I would be willing to bet that when we talk to you next Tuesday, you're going to pass. Don't be second guessing yourself. As I've told everybody, you got to be confident in your execution of your study plan, confident in yourself, and most importantly, confident in your answers. So I think you can pass. If I were a betting person, I'd be betting that you're going to pass. I think there's a better than 50-50 chance you're going to pass. 80-20. I mean, you're at risk, but I don't think you're at risk as much as you think you are. So that's what I guess I would say. You bet. All right. Eric, the mirror on the wall. Who's the greatest trademark? I don't know if it is. I'm Eric. Maybe you trademark it now, and I going to be mad you're making millions of dollars. So maybe I should trademark it. It's funny. I have, I think I have original content. There are people who are now creating videos using Sora and AI, and I think, well, what's the point of that? I mean, I would hope you rather see a real living human being instead of something created by AI. But I think it's funny. I've been accused of copying people. I go, I don't know how I copy people. I got 2,000 videos, and my stuff is my stuff. So I have not trademarked that. So I guess you could trademark it. Maybe we make. I was thinking on the channel, maybe we should sell some stuff, right? I think I've made such a big deal that I don't have anything for sale that it would be difficult now to change gears. But maybe we have a inch by inch testing's a cinch, yard by yard testing is hard. Maybe we have mirror on the wall. I was thinking maybe we sell some tombstones, Eric, where you could buy a tombstone that has a lucite, your testing dates and your victories that you could kind of put on your desk. I mean, because you don't get anything. I think FINRA could make a fortune when you pass. They say, would you like to spend $40 for like a tombstone, something to commemorate your testing victory? Right. So, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I do have people telling me that on trading floors, certain trading floors I know of, that now they go around saying greetings and salutations. There's another one. Maybe I should trademark greetings and salutations. I had there you go. So that's very much what's on the test. So thank you. Yeah, Dingbot. I listen, I do pay attention who would think 63 years old, entering my 64th year, my birthday last month, that I am really a social media influencer. I mean, I have a contract and I make, a good living accidentally on this side hustle. Unbelievable. But some of the people I follow as content creators say you should have your own avatar. So they're serious. They're saying with AI, you should have a Dean bot, right? So maybe I set the Dean bot in to do the live stream, right? Put it on a mug there. Yeah, there you go. Maybe and remind me if you join us next Tuesday. Maybe we'll put that in the chat. Say, hey, what would make sense if we're going to sell things on the channel? Would you be interested in a coffee cup or memorizing formulas? Well, the CAPM you don't need to memorize. It's pretty straightforward on the test. Alpha is the excess return over beta. On the test, that'll be pretty simple. We'll say the market returns 10, the beta is 1.5. What is the expected return? And you would just take, 10 times 1.5, 15%. Alpha would be excess over that. So if we were expecting 15, we got 18, the alpha is 3, the excess return over beta. It could be negative, by the way. And then remember, in the test, there's people that don't believe in this alpha. I mean, if I really thought I was a hot money guy, I could say, hey, you don't have to pay me on the beta. You can just pay me on the alpha, seeking alpha. If you think seeking alpha is a waste of time and resources because it doesn't exist, test question, well, then you believe in the efficient market hypothesis. And like we talked about theory, that's not truth either. A hypothesis is a way of explaining things. And you buy an index fund. Now, CAPM, where it might get a little messy, is if I give you the risk-free rate of return. I say risk-free rate of return is whatever we say. We could use treasury notes. I have friends in real estate use the T-note as a risk-free rate of return, or T-bills, whatever. And I say the risk-free rate of return is 3. So in that example, the market return was 10, but I say, listen, we could have got 3 without doing anything. So the market return was really 7. Right? So I back that out of that times by 1.5, and then again, deduct the risk-free rate of return. But I doubt you're going to have to deal with the risk-free rate of return. That's what CAPM is about, the capital asset pricing model. This idea is what is the expected or required rate of return, given the risk that I'm willing to take. Per unit of risk, what is the per unit of reward I'm expecting? And I would try and maximize returns while minimizing risk. Something that does that. Again, we're not going to ask you to do the math, but I always tease, like, if you give me $1 million and you give Brian $1 million, and you say, Dean, whoever has the best return is going to get the rest of my business. And we both made 20%. We both have $1.2 million. Yeah, Brian was foolish enough to send me a copy of his portfolio. And the guy says, well, I don't know what to do. It's a tie. He said, it's not a tie. You go, what do you mean it's not a tie? We both got $1.2 million, but I took less risk doing it. My portfolio has a higher Sharpe ratio. I'm getting more bang for the buck in terms of reward and risk. So it's over general terms. It's not going to do the math. It's a general understanding. Yeah, Guru Swag. Guru Swag. Oh, I like that. I like that. You know, and maybe I can have AI do it, right? To say, make me a video. Crazy. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday night. I'll see you next Tuesday night. We had several Erics. I think Eric with the K. I think you were asking about the class tab not offering you any free stuff. There isn't a lot of free stuff, but if you have that problem, just send me an email and I'll make sure that I override the cap, because that's probably what's happening. It's hitting the cap and disappearing. And so I'll just override it and let you in. All right. All right, everybody. Remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. As my friend Brian says, you take the test. Don't let the test take you. I will see you next Tuesday, everybody. Bye-bye.